Okay, so tonight I want to show you a little scene I did recently. Now I'm in a little tricky because if I bring all the apps up, this machine will get unhappy. So we're going to start by hopefully showing you the actual video. And let's see music to that. And the first thing I had to do was make that pot. So I used the technique that I had seen in the MoGraph.com class. And what I did here, this is our coffee cup, or not coffee cup in this case, it's going to be our pot. And what I did is, so we got our lights and a camera, and then our geo. That's where it all starts. So what I'm going to do is walk you through this. First thing you need to do was create a curve. So if you look at the curve, all it is a curve. What I did next, and to make it look good, you need more points. So following their example, the next thing I did was resample, which added lots of points. As you can see, I'm trying to make them, see, got little numbers there. And to make it even smoother, the next thing I did was subdivide. You can see there are even more points. So now we got this curve with lots of points, and we need to make it into a pot. So we use this revolve node, essentially revolve, it takes the points and revolves them around. Now those green lines are what they call normal, and that has to do with how the light, I believe how the light directions and so forth. I always forget what that is. Um, and but you notice it's they seem to be pointing out because it's gray. If it's blue, then it's no good. But it's gray outside because they're pointing in the correct direction. So now it's very thin. There's no depth to it. So at that point you do the poly extrude. Now notice it now turns gray, blue rather, and the points and the normals are not, if you look at the normals here, they're going in the right direction. Here, they're kind of not doing what they're supposed to. So this is the purpose of the reverse node pointing back at the right direction. So now you have your cup. What I did is I had to get it into cinema. So I did this, I used this alembic node and it put it to a file, which is an alembic file, a .abc. And so that is the Houdini part. Very simple. So I'm going to shut down Houdini. And I don't want to change anything. So now we're going to go to hopefully bring up cinema and I can show you that. So the next step, I imported the coffee cup, the pot, if you will, and I did a bunch of other stuff. For one thing, we had to worry about dynamics. So what I wanted is a number of things I had to worry about. First of all, I wanted gold and silver kind of bubbling over, but I wanted to have proper collisions. So the first thing I had to do here was, let's see where it is, create an emitter. Emitter, what it does is it emits particles. And what you can do with an emitter, and let's see where it is. But you could tell it to attach to an actual object. Let's see if this is the right. What am I looking at here? Um, so in the emitter, what you do, I want to see where I do that. Um, for set. Okay, let's look at the. Oh, I know. Here we go. That's right. I put in the gold and the silver. Now, the gold and the silver are essentially you have some basic shapes, and it's basically a cylinder that I squashed down and took those. And of course, I made them look like gold and silver. I pulled in textures from Grayscale Gorilla. And then the other thing I did was first of all, we had to take the pot and we had to do something. First of all, the gold and the silver have these, that's the phone tag. Where is or the emitter rather. Trying to find the right tag. Okay. The emitter is a, what do they call it? What? Simulation tags. It is a rigid body. But we want them to collide with the pot and the floor. So when you have the pot, let's see what we called it in here. It's in here. I think that is our geo, and it has a collision body tag right here. And the plane, if you look at the plane here, it does as well. And I got a little creative with the texture for the pot and for the plane. I've been taking some little going through a video class where they talked about a lot of textures. And then of course here for the letters I used a what they call a letter spline and extruded it. And let's see where we can find those. Here, right here. I This is a null, and it basically allows me to group these things together, the two different words. And of course, let's see if we can find what I did here. So we have the two words here, and I textured them with this brushed aluminum. So now I have my whole system set up. I have my um, the uh, uh, the coins, if you will, are rigid bodies. I have the pot and the floor, for lack of a better term, as collider bodies. And when you turn this on, you can see they fly up and they collide according to physics. So the next step there is I had to render this out, and that gave me a bunch of frames, like if you think of an animation frames. Let's stop this. And I'm going to close this because I want to make sure that I don't change anything. No, I do not want to touch anything here. And I'm going to close Cinema, and I'm going to bring up the next piece. which is Nuke. So let's see if I can bring up Nuke. And here is Nuke. So in Nuke, I basically put the thing together. I downloaded a free image for the background. Oh, and one thing I forgot, in cinema I also had some lights. They weren't I didn't love them, but uh I think that can be improved upon. So as you can see, this is the background. Um, I did a transform to make it go, everything go in the right spot. Let's see, yeah, I essentially moved it. And that's our background. That's your B for the merge. The A was the render from the pot of gold. Now, because I didn't have a background, it had nothing there. So when you put them together, it works without having to do anything weird or having to worry about playing around with alpha channels or anything like that. Or it just worked because there was essentially the background is empty. So when it's all it had to put over it was the assets that I created, the floor, the pot, the gold and silver, and the letters. And then here is a viewer. That's what we're seeing here. Um, and then I use the right node, which essentially lets me render it out, just like I did from cinema. I rendered it out as a bunch of frames, animation frames. Brought that into DaVinci Resolve, downloaded some free music, stuck that on there, and rendered that out, and hence the entire project. So you can see how I use varying tools. I used Houdini to do, I guess, I don't know if it's quite procedural modeling, but it was not what they call destructive modeling, which is where you take a box and then do cuts and uh, extrusions and negative extrusions and all the stuff. This was done essentially using the nodes in Houdini, but it's very, very simple. In fact, the example in the class, they did something more involved because they made it a coffee cup, which means it had to have a little, handle. And the advantage of doing it that way is that if you change things, it didn't break. It wasn't as fragile as traditional modeling. Brought that in. I then um, added the dynamics, the particles to control the gold and silver coins. The Made sure the collisions were right. I had the things that the coins were rigid bodies. The pot and the floor were collider objects, so they're just sitting there getting collided with by the coins. And then I added the text and lights, and I did use the Octane renderer, which worked just fine. There are several different render engines. This just worked. Um, and brought it into Nuke. I threw a background on it, and off I went. Now, I probably could have brought the back. I could have brought the background in. Well, no, because to use the environment, you need what they call an HDRI, which is a special kind of image, shot in a particular way. But with Nuke, I was able to use a regular one. So hopefully this has been helpful and interesting, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.